know nothing about, but you're enlightening us with stuff. But you have a multitude of certifications. You have a bachelor's in biology.
Correct.
If I Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you got that from Oakland University. You've worked in labs for the last 15 years. You've done a variety of things. First, I usually like to ask people, why did they choose a profession or why did they become an author or start writing? So, how did you get into working in labs? What led you into biology?
Well, that's the funny thing is that I tell people is that I got my degree in biology and I proceeded to never work in biology a day in my life. I've been a chemist working in the lab for, like you said, about 15 years now. I started lab while I was in college and I never really looked back. Um, so it was that I was a bench chemist, I was a toxicologist, and then when COVID hit, pretty much anyone in sciences became a molecular chemist. That's just sort of how the ball bounced. I went from that, and yeah, so uh, again, biology and chemistry are pretty close. They're sort of the Gemini, the twin siblings, but yeah, you gotta pivot and some of it's sort of falling into what's available, right? I didn't want to go to med school. That was not I did patient care stuff for a little bit, and that was just not for me. So as far as labs go, if you want to have a regular job, you got to be a chemist. Biologists do well, but they're going everywhere from Miami to Anchorage, just following what's needed. And that wasn't for me. I'm a more of a homebody, so
Well, that I understand. When I think of chemistry and I think of biology, I always have flashbacks to my high school days where you had the basic biology courses, and then you have to go do your experiments for your final exams, and somebody tampers with your lab station, and then you know everything by heart, so you write it all out, and then for some reason you still get a lower mark than the guy who cheated. But anyways, um,
yeah, yep.
those are the things that happened. But in and recently, as recent as May 2023, you became Chief Executive Officer of Aero Lab Solutions. So fast forward all the way through all your years of experience, and then you're doing this. So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So you can I was already the technical supervisor at a lab. For people that are the sort of lay people, here's how it works. You can work the way up, and if you're real good, you can wind up being the technical supervisor. If you want to go past that, um, two options are either set off on your own and do your own thing, or you can become a director.
Hmm.
Generally at a hospital or a large lab. I didn't want to suit up every day. I don't like you get further away from the science. Every step you go up that ladder to
Okay.
eventually the top as a director, and you're not doing science anymore. You're solving squabbles. It wasn't my thing. So it made sense to launch my own company. As it stands, I'm on the advisory board for a couple of labs. I'm the technical supervisor in a sense for two smaller labs. Um, One of these labs, I'm the only lab staff. I go in and I everything from the ground up. I take the weak samples, I accession everything, I form everything, I prep, I run, and then I certify and send out the results to the position. So it's a lot more fun than doing a 9 to 5 every day. I kind of doing whatever. It's all over the place. I like it.
So you could kind of make your own schedule, but I mean that's a lot on your plate, being at multiple places and running your own company. How
Yeah, well, that's sort of the thing. The fun part is that at one job I might mainly be there just to work on the instruments. That's me. You can imagine in your own head like a car mechanic. I'm working on the instruments all the way to in the clinical stuff, forensic stuff. I authored the primer on field testing for the FBI for doing toxicology in the field. It's all different stuff. Yeah, and it just I don't know. It's been a ride, man. I'm liking it.
Well, I hear FBI, and I'm sure people want to know, do you have any interesting stories or something random to happen that you're allowed
Uh,
to share?
Sort of. So, I'll put it this way. So I validated a device for use by the FBI. Um, again, these are still things that are sort of in the works. I'm not going to go into it,
Hmm.
but it was sort of time to, okay, we need to give them a little brochure, a booklet, a primer, so that they know, the skill set that makes somebody a good agent for the FBI is not necessarily one that uh, makes it easy to read the science jargon. So I put the primer together in a way that I think I nailed it. I tried to make it in a way that everybody could understand.
Well, if you can make me understand it, then you're gold. And chemistry business and odds and ends. Before we talk more about your company,
Sure.
you like traveling and you like relaxing, you like enjoying things, fitness, stuff like that.
Sure.
Um, what about you play video games? It says some of
You
your
know,
interests are video games, right?
that's yes. I I try and let myself play if I can find time. I try and play 2 games a year. That's sort of
Two,
my thing.
do you play them throughout the year, or you only play 2 times a year?
Well, okay, for me to do a game, it has to have a beginning, middle, and an end,
Okay.
right? It needs to be a complete thing so that I can do it for over the course of a couple weeks, and then I can put it away, and I can and until something else catches my eye.
So when most recently, what have you played? Just more for my curiosity. I don't
Oh,
think,
sure. They remade a game from when I was in college called Dead Space. It's
Yes.
zombies, shooter, zombies in space, and I really enjoyed that. And what was the one before that that I really got a kick of was God of War Ragnarok. Again, it's sort of a game from my childhood, except that Kratos is old and nice, and he's a dad. And I really like that.
He's come full circle. He's like complete
Yeah,
complete character profile there.
yeah, and it's fun to play it. Because when I was a hormonal teenager playing as this raging man, slaughtering stuff, I could relate to that. And now that I'm older and have kids, he's more there's a dignity about him, which I get it. So
They
it's fun to grow up with the characters.
they thought about that. They're like, we have to grow with our fan base. So now they're
Yeah,
all dads and we're gonna do
yeah.
this. That's pretty fun. I grew up playing those two, and I think more now I'm back into the like RTS games and those kind of things. But
Oh, right.
we won't bore people too much with video games. But
That's
having
fair.
said that, well, let's talk about let's talk about your company. We're going to Aerolab Solutions, and it's pretty interesting. In the summary, basically, you guys are testing to see if there's microplastics in people's blood, and I think that's as simple as I can explain it. But I'll let you tell us a little bit about it and what you guys do.
Well, sure. So again, the Aerolab Solutions is basically a company that services labs. That's the main thing that we do, and everything from document control to actually helping with the instrument stuff like
Mhm.
that. Now, our latest venture is Plastic Tox, and it's the only test on the market that a person can get and get a blood test for microplastics. Again, stuff in the works. I'm working with a fairly large medical institution out of Florida right now. We're trying to partner up and work on stuff like that. It's just, I mean, it seemed to be, there seemed to be a hole in the market. No one could get tested for microplastics, but it also seemed to be a huge research tool. I was looking at some of these samples that universities have put together, sample sizes of 20, 25. It's like that's not it's a good start, but that's not really what when you think of a good cumulative study, you're
Mhm.
not thinking of 20 dudes that you got to test. And so I'm acquiring all this data, I'm amassing everything, and I've always said any university or municipality or a hospital, anyone that wants this data, I'm open sourcing it. If anyone reaches out to me, I can. And again, we stick to all the HIPAA violations or all the HIPAA standards, so we don't do any violations. It's just stripped down to the demographics that are permitted. But we're trying to get this data put together. So that's the second part of it. We're not only is it the first of its kind, the only one of its kind currently, but we're really trying to get the most good out of this data that we can get.
I well, you reached out to me, and I was like, this is amazing because, like you said, I don't know any service or lab or any one person who's doing this. And it's funny because these conversations come up all the time with the environment, with the recycling, with plastic. Plastic's forever. Does it really go away? Is it in your food? Is it in your water? It's what's going on with that. And a lot of people just kind of dismiss it like everything else. And I mean, they're microwaving their food in plastic containers in the microwave at work and doing these things. And you say, well, microplastics are like microplastics. What are you talking about? But if there's something with data where you could come out and partner up with somebody to say, look, this is a legit thing. And we know it is. We just, like you said, we're collecting the data and trying to put this together and I guess illuminate the topic. So but how did that like come to your mind? Like, what was your thought process? Like, it just like the apple hit you on the head one day, and you're like, "I'm gonna do this," or it was something that was bothering you for many years.
It's something that's been on my mind for a long time. So there's been two things on my mind: environmental concern. One are what is known as PFAS.
Hmm.
These are the for Teflon stuff like that, and the other is microplastics. Now, the PFAS are there's lots of people already testing for that. For the last few years, people have been sort of getting woke to the issue, and so they're already doing research. Microplastics, nobody really cared about it. And so I said, well, there's already institutions taking care of that half. I'll do my part and see if I can't help with the other. Um, again, it's really not the tech behind it. Yeah, I mean, I do. We're patent pending, but at the end of the day, it was just combining, two ideas that have existed for a long time. Microscopy has existed for a century. 23andMe, lots of places do
Hmm.
at-home test kits. And I said,
Right.
well, if I make an excellent test, but it requires somebody to go and get their blood drawn, nobody's going to do it. If I
Exactly.
make it a
Yeah.
nice, easy kit, it'll, it just seemed like the best. It just seemed like the best way to do it. So it's a super high access worldwide, no problem. So it just seemed it took over a year for me to get the chemistry side of it down,
Hmm.
because all the when you're in unknown territory like this, there's no company you can go to. If you say, oh, I want a control, I want contaminated blood, clean blood, I want to see what it looks like, there's nothing. Everything has to be made in house. So that's been a that's it's been a busy year, but we've got it done. We got to a viable product.
Well, the pioneer of things, always be the first. If right, always be the first in whatever you're doing, whether it's creating content or trying to revolutionize stuff. If you want to invent the light bulb, but this is being first. So, very interesting. And if everybody wanted to go check out your stuff, it's aerolabsolutions.com. And in terms of that, if people want to get a hold of a testing kit, are you guys selling that right now?
Yeah, the so that's my aerolabsolutions.com is
Yeah.
my company. Plastictox.com is the product page. They both link to each other, so it's not a huge issue. But yeah, that is the thing. And I always tell people, if you don't want to pay for it, contact your local universities. They might have a program you can get on a little list and get it tested that way. Yeah, don't say, oh, it's too expensive and not do it. To call up your local universities. A lot of them would be happy to take a sample from you and provide you with the results.
Very interesting. I didn't even know that. In terms of, you said you're international, worldwide. Is there any limits? Like anybody from any country can order right now, or it's still bearing some testing issues? Or
The On the logistics side, we've had no issues.
okay.
It's basically anywhere that FedEx will ship to,
Hmm.
which is pretty much anywhere because they have a lot of other companies that they work with. Um, Again, the shipping is included in the price, so we do have some room there if it's a one of those weird places where they don't have that much shipping. And the good thing about the kit is that everything is shelf stable for like a year. So if it takes a month to get to you, you're still gonna get it.
That's awesome. And so then people are wondering, like, okay, this sounds like a great idea, but why do I need to know if I have microplastics in my blood? But are there health impacts on us? Well, obviously, I would imagine the answer is yes. But from your side of things, a better explanation: why would people need to get tested for microplastics?
So every day I'm getting stuff across my desk about how extensive the crisis could be. ACS just put out a thing a few months ago, and they said it's looking like it's impacting people's endocrine system, hormones and stuff. Obesity, depression, blood pressure, lung issues. It's it just goes on and on. Again, now a lot of that stuff we're still testing that.
Hmm.
But I would everything that I say is backed up by the most recent studies put out by the ACS currently,
Hmm.
the American Chemist Society, respected institution. I always shout them out. They've been an excellent resource. But yeah, so we don't even know the scope yet. It's there's a lot of people didn't even know what microplastics were 5 years ago, so we're still trying to figure it out. But it's looking like the heaviest hit is to the endocrine system, all the hormone stuff. That's probably of all the human systems that, and people would argue with me, but so my personal opinion is that that's the most sensitive. That's the one that's most easily thrown askew,
Hmm.
is the
And
human endocrine system.
right, and I'd imagine off the top of my head, probably not knowing the research myself, but that makes sense, especially given how we're seeing a lot of changes in people in terms of weight, obesity. Like, who was I? Somebody sent me a picture the other day, and they were just talking about how it was fitness. Have all these fitness programs and people have to work out because if you don't eat healthy, you're gonna gain weight. Well, in the 1980s, everybody on the beach, they were skinny naturally, and a lot of it was
Yep.
food, and a lot of it was, well, we still used a lot of glass for milk and even Coca-Cola and those things. And I was talking about that today with some people, and we moved away from that. Everything's plastic. Look at everything that goes into recycling, and and people can talk about how great recycling is, but there are recycling programs, they don't even really recycle 90% of what goes on. So where's that really going? Going to landfills, is it going in the water? And the other thing is that I don't know about in the States, but in Canada now they're replacing copper pipes often enough in the homes with plastic tubing. And there's a lot of I'm not saying that's something to worry about, but it's just there's things we don't know, like what's that going to be like in 20 years or and those type of things. So, uh, you know, I shoot my hat off to you guys. It's very interesting work that you're be doing. In terms of the size of the company, like how big is your company right now?
So right now it's I've got my Dutch partners, they help me with the research. Their company's got a handful of people. I've got my CTO, my co-founder. It's just three of us. The missus helps me out with some of the secretarial work. So it's a
Right.
pretty small, pretty tight crew right now.
Well, especially from the start, from you're starting from ground zero, right? So you're putting everything
Yes.
together, you're trying to get everything going. Well, that's great. And what do you see in the future, like in the next couple of years? Do you see more people taking this a little bit more seriously, especially if you're able to present all this data? Are we going to get more people talking about it on the news per se?
I wouldn't be I wouldn't be surprised. It's one of those things that it's not very comfortable. It's not a very comfortable discussion.
Right.
Um, because that no one wants to take the blame, and if we say okay, this is really bad, it's like what? So then all of manufacturing, are we gonna what? Guilt manufacturing as a whole? What are It's gonna be there's gonna be pushback. There's gonna be back and forth, but I think with my product, with various people doing studies on it,
Yeah.
academics, I think we can kind of have enough of a united front that we can really move the needle over the next couple of years.
Well, I think that there's a lot of things that are going to be changing soon, especially after the whole situation with lockdowns and pandemic and vaccinations and people questioning everything, questioning their health and what are we doing and maybe how do we be healthier and this is just one of those things. Like I feel like everybody's been the last maybe I'd say 15, 20 years, even more. Everybody's been kind of flowing through life, just kind of with blinders on and not thinking about the consequences of everything. And just like, it's like vaping. Like vaping comes out and everybody jumped on that. And then they find out like that stuff's worse than
Yeah.
perhaps like there was no data on it. Right. And then now here the government's cracked down on it and those type of things. But, usually, I interview a lot of authors too, and they, they usually have a book, and I say, well, what are you working on next? And so, what are you working on next, Alan? Is there anything
That's a
else you're working on that add to the microplastic testing.
Yeah, I am. So I'm in a few talks right now to get some funding. When I have some funding, there's a as it stands, the test right now, it tells you, the size of microplastics, if there are any in your system, the size of them and the shape of them.
Mhm.
And we can do some stuff with that. It's a pretty good test. If I can get a hold of a mass spectrometer, it's a very expensive instrument, but it that can tell you not only a yay or a nay, do you got it or not? It can tell you an exact volume of every single type
Wow.
of plastic. So it's not just, yep, you have plastics, it looks like it was caused by cosmetics. That's pretty much what you're going to get now. I can say the specific compound that we found is X, and who knows, you might be able to pinpoint that and say, well, X is this is only produced in this certain factory that makes this certain cosmetics. It'll help us really pinpoint down. Also, mass spectrometry is it's a much it's designed for high throughput. It's designed for turning out a lot of tests, so it would help scale things up. Um, so yeah, that's sort of what my eyes are on for the next year or two, to see if I can't wrangle up some of this equipment and really scale this test up.
Well, that is even more interesting because if you can pinpoint exactly what type of plastic it is and say it's from makeup or it's from Tupperwares or it's from I don't know, like everything's polyester now, the toys and stuffed animals, everything's floating in the air and toothbrushes, a lot of it is plastic, right? So
Yep.
that would be super interesting. But let's say that's the case. Let's say you find out you got, your microplastics are from toothbrushes. Besides not using them anymore and getting an alternative, how would you be able to cleanse your system for microplastics? Is there a way? Is that even possible?
Well, so there's a few schools of thought on this. Again, we're pretty much on the cusp. It's looking like through tests that we've seen on human urine.
Mhm.
With urine, it's the opposite. You kind of want to see the microplastics in there because it means the body's doing a good job. It's getting the stuff out. It's looking like once you stop the intake, once you stop ingesting the microplastics, it's looking like, and again, there's still research out there, but it's looking like over time, your body can slowly, years and years perhaps, but it looks like the body is capable of cleansing a lot of that out of itself.
Interesting. Yeah, I would imagine over time you'd be able to get it out, and that's good news if that's the case, because otherwise you're kind of stuck with this for life. And I imagine, obviously, more people, some people probably have more microplastics than others, right? And
Yeah.
we're in a world where we can't escape it unless I guess you live in the forest and you're by yourself. I mean, it's
Yeah, pretty much.
right. So that's pretty cool. And usually like to give guests, a final thoughts or final words or add something to the conversation that we haven't talked about already. Talked about video games, a little bit about yourself, and with all your jobs and everything that keeps you busy and your company, give us a little bit of something that I usually say words of wisdom that you want to talk. It could be a sales pitch too. Hey, go ahead.
Sure. A lot of people, this is the opposite of a sales pitch. A lot of people ask me, what's the best thing I can do to avoid getting microplastics? Because people were talking about plastic bottles, like you're seeing here, plastic bottles having a lot of microplastics in them that just got on the news a week ago. So people ask me, what do I do? What do I do? And my solution is not the perfect solution. My solution is, I think, the best that people might actually follow. So my solution is this: to just get one of those stupid filters that you slap on your faucet and do the filter into I'm not sponsored by Hydro Flask, but into a Hydro Flask or a bottle or something, a terracotta, something like that. I think that's a really good first step. People will push back on me. Well, the municipality water is no good. Oh, the tap water, like you said, the plastic tubing, all this stuff. I mean, no. If I told everybody, go into your backyard and hire a company, pay them 10 grand to dig a well, and yeah, that would be better. But no one's going to do that. Okay, I would. That's my suggestion is, if you're concerned about it, drop the $40, slap the filter onto your sink that you'll actually use, and replace the cartridges when it says to, another $20 every couple of months. And that's gonna be, the great is not the enemy of the good. Okay, that's a good solution, and that's my the thing I tell people. So there we
Don't
go.
don't stress out about it yet. Stress out about it when we have the data all put together, because
Yes. Yeah.
it's actually funny because I've always my father's always been big on recycling and filtering water and those kinds of stuff. So we do that. And I was talking to my wife. I said, it'd be great if we built a well in the backyard and go deep enough. She's like, how do you know we're gonna find water? I'm like, there's always water in the ground. It just depends on how far you go and how deep you go. And I said, you could probably get a company to come in and do it, but there's the little ones that you don't the manual ones that you can get,
Oh
or you can
yeah.
build an actual like a traditional well that everybody
Oh
sees in movies, but
yeah, the scary movie where the girl comes out. Yeah.
yeah, but no, that's those. I mean, that's probably the best ideas. Don't get too paranoid. Filter your water, and when the time comes and it becomes a thing, like you guys are doing all the groundwork, well, then we could have a serious conversation. Be like, look, here's the data. You can't argue this data, and what are we going to do next? Then go from there. Uh, That's awesome. So, anyways, I'll read. Let's go over the where your stuff's located. So, aerolabsolutions.com, that's your company, and plastictalks.com is the actual product and the testing. So, if anybody wants to go there and check it out, I got my second monitor here, so I'm looking at everything. Exactly how it works. Takes about 2 to 4 weeks for the kit to arrive. Follow the instructions. It's do it at home kit, and then send it back in, get your results in 48 weeks. You're also on Facebook. Alan, yourself, you're on Instagram. Sorry, not Instagram. Sorry, LinkedIn and Twitter. You're on
Yep.
Twitter as well. So Aero Lab CEO. If anybody wants to follow you, and that's it. Alan, if you want, and if there's anything you want to share with me, let me know. I'll share it on Twitter, and well, we'll if it's something new that's coming out, or a message, or even some articles about microplastics and whatnot, I will be more than happy to share that with everybody.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that, and thank you for having me on.
Hey,
This has
my
been good.
pleasure. This is super interesting, and I'm sure in the future, contact me again, and we'll with an update. If there's an update or something new comes out, you'll let me know, and we'll do it again.
Yeah, and hey, if there's ever any wacky science topics that you want an actual scientist to help you out with, you know where to find me.
Hey, I'm teaching science this year. Do you know that?
What? No.
I'm teaching. I'm probably the worst science teacher, but I'm teaching science to pre-K to grade 4.
Oh, good.
I used to be a specialized. My God, I'm losing my words. I used to be a classroom teacher for children with autism in
Oh,
closed classroom settings, but this year I just transitioned, see what's going on for health issues and stuff like that. But nothing like microplastics. But we do talk about, like, I think recently we were talking about the water cycle and
oh,
uh,
that's
those
great.
those types of stuff. So that's as sciencey as I get. Let me tell you.
No, but that honestly, I remember being third, fourth, fifth grade, and that was sort of like when the seed took hold. That's an excellent job.
They do ask a lot of great questions, and I try to answer as best I can.
Well, that's fantastic. Don't let them tire you out too much, though. Kids
Oh,
tend to
good.
do
Well, that's by
that.
the end of the week I'm pooped, and then Friday comes, and then I gotta go take a huge nap for an entire weekend. But
Yep,
all right, Alan, thanks for coming on the podcast, and
absolutely.
we'll see everybody next time. Thank you, everyone, for being a part of the Mr. Mike Show. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing to your platform of choice. For more updates and exclusive content, visit our website at www.mrmikemtl.com. Stay relaxed, stay inspired, and we'll see you next time.